Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mental Health and Makeup. And I'm your host, Jasmine Young. I am a psychiatric and mental health nurse practitioner, and today's episode is going to be very, very exciting because you all like drama, I see. Well, I'm going to give you some drama today, okay? Well, I'm coming out of the DSM-5, my handy dandy notebook here, and it's on page 663. Borderline personality disorder. And a lot of people say, what's a borderline personality disorder? And I'm always like, oh boy, here we go. Because it's always so full of drama. And I just want to let everyone know, by no means am I trying to diagnose you or anyone you know with borderline personality disorder, okay? For all intents and purposes, this is for educational purposes only, okay? All right, so let's get started. Borderline personality disorder is a pervasive pattern of instability of interpersonal relationships, self-image, and affects, which are moods. Affects are moods. Affect equals mood. And marked impulsivity. Marked impulsivity. That means a really impulsive person. Yeah. Beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts as indicated by 5 or more of the following. Okay. So I hope you all have something to write with, or if you're taking notes, okay? Because if you have 5 or more of these, just put it like this. I want you to go and see someone, okay? And just tell them what you learned today. You all asked for it. You got it, okay? Number 1, frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment do not include suicidal or self-mutilating behavior. All right, we're not even there yet. So, frantic efforts to avoid these things. Frantic efforts. That means that people are going out of their way to avoid abandonment. And a perceived abandonment, it may not be a real abandonment, okay? Like, for instance, if someone leaves you, that means that they physically leave. A perceived abandonment is more like someone feeling like they're abandoned, okay? You can have a perceived feeling of abandonment in any relationship, okay? Perceived abandonment. I mean, there could be some type of communication problem, and 2 people just stop talking. One person may perceive that as the other person abandoning them, but it may not be that way. So it just may be perceived, okay, and not real. Now, a real abandonment is abandonment, someone leaving you. For instance, when children of divorced parents, they grow up, they become adults, they may still carry around that real abandonment if one of their parents abandoned them. And one of the parents may have moved across the city and could be working double shifts just to take care of them, but this child may still have a perceived abandonment issue. All right, so if you all are already thinking, oh yeah, this could be me, I want you to keep a list, okay? All right, number 2, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. What that means is you put somebody on a pedestal and then you knock them down. Do you do that? Don't do that. Can they just stay on their pedestal, please? Or just stay down? So you're dealing with someone that idealizes another person, right? You're my idol. You're my idol. And then all of a sudden, I don't like you anymore. And as a matter of fact, I just hate you. I love you one day, I hate you the next. Okay? You're on a pedestal one day, and then you're down. I love you. I love you. I hate you. I love you. I hate you. I love you. I hate you. And that is how they feel about people in general. It may be one person. It may be a few people at a time. So if you find yourself idealizing, idealizing, say that 3 times. If you find yourself idealizing people and then throwing them down and devaluing them, that's not a good trait. I mean, I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me. Don't do that, okay? But if you do, then there's help for it, okay? And don't get dismayed, y'all. Don't get dismayed over these symptoms. You're just learning, okay? And don't try to say, "Oh, that's my mama, that's my daddy, that's my sister, that's my brother." That's exactly what they are. They got borderline personality disorder. That's what's wrong with them. That's what's been wrong with them all this time. Yeah, don't do that to each other, okay? All right, number 3, identity disturbance. A markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self. Your sense of self should be stable by the time you get in your 30s, okay? You should know exactly who you are. You know, the 20s, whew, man, the 20s, they're so beautiful, right? But you really don't know who you are when you're in your 20s, okay? But by the time you're 30 or so, you shouldn't have an identity disturbance, a markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self, okay? And that is a big indicator. You know, there's something maybe wrong with your personality, okay? There may be some type of pathology there. All right, number 4. Impulsivity, or being impulsive in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging. For example, spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, and binge eating. We still haven't gotten to the suicidal thoughts. See? And we're talking about, this is serious, y'all. I mean, really, spending, impulsive spending, oof, it can get you in trouble. Impulsive sex. Okay. I'm going to move on from that. Substance abuse, reckless driving, Atlanta, and binge eating. All right, we know what binge eating is, right? It is eating far larger amounts of food than your average person would eat in the same amount of circumstances and the same amount of time under similar circumstances. And so binge eating is an actual disorder. You know, I'll talk about that if you all would like me to on a later episode, but we'll get into eating disorders. But for now, we're just kind of bookmarking that. Number 5 is recurrent suicidal behavior, gestures, threats. You know, do you all know anyone that is chronically suicidal? I mean, chronically. Excuse me. Chronically. Someone who basically always has suicide as an option and always kind of goes there, like that's their plan B. Like, okay, if I don't get that job tomorrow, I could always kill myself. Oh, life is too hard. I think I'm going to kill myself. And this is where we get our cutters, okay? Are you a cutter? If you are, no disrespect, but you got to stop doing that, okay? Because that is extremely dangerous. You cannot cut yourself because you are going to cut too deep. Did you go to medical school? Do you know exactly what's in your arm or where the veins are or where the arteries are? Don't do that. Don't cut on yourself, okay? I know some people say, man, I saw this person with cuts on their arms. Y'all, don't judge, okay? Try not to judge each other. My goodness. It's just, when someone is in a lot of pain and they have borderline personality disorder, they always tell me, because believe it or not, I have a lot of patients with borderline personality disorder. They usually end up in the specialist office because they've been having these symptoms for a very long time, and they just don't understand why they're going through what they're going through, and they just want some answers. Their relationships are usually just very, very tumultuous. you know, and they just can't understand why they cannot have a quote unquote regular relationship. So, like your cutters, people who have past suicidal attempts, people who have been hospitalized for suicide attempts, unsuccessful suicide attempts, and people who have suicidal gestures, you know, like setting things up and things like that. And guys, this isn't just one time, okay? This isn't someone just feeling suicidal for the time being. Like, you know, maybe they lost someone, or maybe, you know, they just feel down. Maybe they failed a class, or maybe life is not going well for them. You know, this is a chronic, recurrent type of behavior where you see people who are constantly threatening suicide, but then you turn around and they're still there. They're still alive. I didn't mean to say that like that, okay? It's just, they're crying out for help. Okay, guys, they're crying out for help. And it's just so sad because when I meet these people, you can tell that they are suffering. They're suffering so bad. And so if you're one of these people, I don't want you to suffer alone, okay? I want you to start to understand that you can get out of this cycle, okay? Don't take yourself too seriously, all right? And you really just need to get therapy. Therapy is a good thing, okay? Okay, so we're ready for number 6. Affective or mood instability due to a marked reactivity of mood. A marked reactivity of mood, that is just a bad mood. Like a very reactive mood that, okay, so you can wake up in the morning and feel wonderful. I feel great. I feel happy. Life is good. And then somebody says something or does something, or maybe they just keep stopping at your desk early in the morning. And you're like, man, I just got my coffee. Like, leave me alone. I just can't even catch my breath. Stop looking at me. Why are you looking at me up and down? Come on. And then here we go. Here comes the monster that's coming out. And a marked reactive mood, it is a serious reactive mood. It's a mood that is after things happen. Reactive. Yeah, look it up, okay? It's after the fact. So when things happen, your mood changes. And your mood usually changes to mad. Intense episodic dysphoria. Dysphoria is a bad mood. So you have episodes where you have an intense bad mood. And some people tell me, oh, I just have this bad mood. I just can't get over it. There's nothing that I can do to get rid of this bad mood. I've tried, and it's just on me. Irritability or anxiety usually lasts in a few hours and only rarely more than a few days. Do you all know people who can be mad for days? I mean days on end. People that just stay mad. Like the same, you know, they're mad, you know, and my dad used to say, he still says, shout out daddy, he still says, people don't get mad, dogs get mad, right? We're people, we don't get mad, we get upset, right? But yeah, people that just, they're mad, you know, all day long, then they go to sleep, and then they wake up, and then they're still mad. Or maybe something happens to where they're like triggered by something, and then that makes them upset. But whatever it is, everyone around them is walking on eggshells because they're still angry. Like a day later, they may be angry all day. They may stop talking to every single person and go into a shell. I mean, it gets really, really serious, y'all. Number 7, chronic feelings of emptiness. Here we go. All right, all y'all Facebookers out there, you say, I feel empty. This is an emptiness that never goes away. You just feel like you just can't get fulfillment out of life. And life is just empty. There's no enjoyment, Okay. So anybody out there feeling empty, I just want y'all to understand why you feel empty, okay? There's a reason why you feel empty. And if you don't know why you feel empty, it's just good to see a therapist, okay, to identify why you feel that way. I don't know. Maybe you feel like life isn't going the way you want it to go. Maybe you don't have anyone. Maybe you don't have any family. You know, maybe, I mean, there are multiple reasons why people feel empty. I mean, you could have a house full of people and feel empty, you know? So I want you all to identify. If you are having feelings of emptiness, I want you to know why, okay? And these are chronic feelings. And so acute versus chronic. Acute is happening like all of a sudden or right now. Not emergent, but just like now, you know, acute. I know it sounds like I'm saying I'm cute. But acute. Acute means right now. A-C-U-T-E. Okay, acute. But chronic means happening over and over and over again. Okay? Something that just doesn't go away. It's chronic. Chronic. No, I'm not talking about Dr. Dre's chronic, okay? It's something that you deal with over and over again. All right, guys, we're down to number 8. Inappropriate, intense anger, or difficulty controlling anger. Oh, boy. Here we go. And I know I'm going to spend a lot of time on this because anger. Okay, first we have to figure out what anger is, okay? Anger. Is anger a feeling or is it a reaction to a feeling? What do you think? I'm not going to answer it for you. Oh, no. Just think about it. So when patients come to me and they have anger problems, I always have to kind of go over this. What is anger? And we talk about it. And I say, okay, what do you think anger is? And they say, it's a feeling. It's a feeling that I have. I say, well, think of anger as being the way that you're expressing that feeling. Anger is actually a reaction. It's not a true feeling because under the anger are true feelings like abandonment, rejection, hurt, sorrow, jealousy or rage, and hatred, and sometimes even love. But under the anger are feelings, okay? And so I always want people to know, if we're going to address this anger, you have got to know how you feel. And you've got to know that there are feelings under that anger, okay? I mean, think about it, people. Isn't it easier to express anger than to express hurt? Yeah, it is. It's easier to express anger than hurt. I mean, who's really going to say, you hurt me? I mean, I would. But just because I can express myself, you all know that, right? But seriously, not everyone can say, you hurt me. Okay? And so they're going to get mad. All right? So anger is that feeling and that emotion that sits on top, okay, of some negative emotion. And what I ask my patients to do is to try to journal and find out exactly what feeling that is, because that's going to open up, it's going to open up a rabbit hole. But opening up a rabbit hole is a good thing, okay? Because you want to just jump on down in it. Just jump, okay? Jump in the rabbit hole. And just know that you definitely are doing yourself a favor, okay? Going into that rabbit hole. Yes, it may get worse before it gets better, you know, and I hate that for some people. Because some of my patients will be in therapy and, you know, they'll be fine, you know, but then they'll start therapy. And then they'll come back kind of depressed. And I'll be like, well, what happened? You know, you were doing well on your medication. And they'll be like, well, I started my therapy and we're in the working phase of therapy. And the working phase of therapy is when you're actually like, you know, the rapport phase is over. So the little honeymoon phase with your therapist is gone. and you all are actually starting to work on actual issues. And so sometimes the issues will dig up the past, honey. Let me tell you. Whew, it gets rough. I mean, sometimes I just have to stop charting. I mean, you know, because I type and talk at the same time, but sometimes I'm like what? You know, just really engrossed by these stories that I hear. You know, because with people with borderline personality disorder, remember, they have this perceived or imagined abandonment. You get what I'm saying? Abandonment. When people have abandonment issues, let me tell you something. It's not too pretty. Oh no. Because they're going to get it. Whoever abandoned them, oh, they're going to make sure at some point that they express that abandonment. Now, whether it comes out in certain ways, you know, the suicidal type gestures and different things, that's that abandonment. Different feelings is coming out, and people ask, like, why does that person act that way? You know, well, they don't know how to express themselves from this abandonment, you know, and they act out of rage and anger. Inappropriate, intense anger, or difficulty controlling anger. You all know some people that just go off on people. Can't control their anger. Everybody knows, uh-oh, sis is about to blow. Yeah. And it can be kind of scary being around someone with borderline personality disorder because their moods are so reactive. They can wake up in the morning and, oh, I'm fine. Afternoon, now I'm mad. Then a little later, now I'm back happy. And then something else happens, and now I'm back mad. It's like people can't really follow you. People can't follow your emotions, you know? And anger and acting out, oh, it can get rough. People punching holes in walls, just going off on people at work, you know, acting a fool, acting a scene, doing a lot of different things. Difficulty controlling anger. These are your people who need anger management. And I often do recommend anger management for people with borderline personality disorder. Frequent displays of temper. Okay. So all of you people out there who have bad tempers, I really want you to take a look at yourself, okay? I want you to say, do I have a bad temper? Okay, everybody, ask yourself right now. Do I have a bad temper? And then answer it, okay? Ask yourself that and answer it. Now I'm going to ask you again. Do you have a bad temper? You know. Mm-hmm. You know if you have a bad temper, don't look at me. Like I say, if you can't say amen, say and recurrent physical fights. I mean, you get too old to fight at some point. So if y'all know someone who's constantly fighting, there's a problem. Recurrent physical fights. I mean, you find people in jail, going to jail, because that is exactly where you're going to be. Exactly. It's hard for me to talk when I'm trying to do that. But yeah, physical fights. If you know a grown adult person who is having physical fights, I mean, really, think about it, guys. You should stop fighting like middle school or something. You know what I'm saying? High school. Okay, I'll give you high school. But as adults, recurrent physical fights, no. All right, guys, we are almost done. Transient stress-related paranoid ideation. What is that? What'd you just say, Jasmine? Transient is coming and going, okay? Coming and going. Transient stress-related, so related to stress. So coming and going, related to stress or during times of stress. Okay, so during times of stress, this may come or go. Paranoid ideation. That's paranoid thoughts. So when you're stressed out, do you get paranoid? That's not normal. Okay, it's not normal. Or severe dissociative symptoms. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Severe dissociative symptoms. Okay. Dissociating happens when people take a back seat to being an active participant in what is going on with them. Okay. Some people, that dissociate tell me that it feels different ways. Some people say it feels like they're in a dreamland, like they're walking, or they're moving, and they're doing things, but they're like, I feel like I'm dreaming. Like maybe this is not real. Dissociating can be severe, and a lot of times people will have dissociative identity disorder, DID, which is what people like to call multiple personality disorder. I have experience with DID, not personally, but of course the clinic, and it gets real. It gets real. They dissociate, okay? Because they're so used to dissociating due to the trauma that they experienced in life. They're kind of used to dissociating to get through it. And if you're a person who dissociates and you feel like you take a back seat to your reality, like you're not an active participant, like you're on autopilot, and things just are distorted, you are dissociating, okay? But I mean, it's just such a pervasive feeling, subjective type feeling. A lot of people describe dissociating differently, but basically you're just not here in the present. You're somewhere, your mind is far, far away, and you're just kind of going through the motions. All right, so I want you all to look back through those, and I want you all to read on page 663 if you're in the DSM. Read those and then count how many you have. And I don't recommend anyone self-diagnose, because these 9 symptoms, some of them can be kind of subjective. And so you all will need help from a professional to really kind of understand what those things mean. And we definitely will walk you through. I don't want anybody walking around like, pointing fingers, you have borderline personality disorder because Jasmine said you did. No, Jasmine didn't say any of that, boo-boo. This is for educational purposes only. So, how many do you all have? And I mean, if you say, oh, I just have 4 of them. I mean, come on. Come on now. Come on. I still want you to go get therapy. Because borderline personality disorder, it can be treated. Some of this can be treated. Like I can give a mood stabilizer like Lamictal, for someone who is feeling suicidal or very depressed. We can treat these symptoms, okay? Some people who are abusing substances or binge eating, I treat all that. Also, some of these intense anger issues, I can treat that. The paranoia, I can treat that. Some of these things do have actual medication treatments and medication therapies. But the rest, like for instance, the dissociating, you want to use mindfulness. If you find yourself dissociating a lot, you got to be more mindful. And your therapist will go over some grounding techniques. And one that I like is with your feet flat on the floor. Putting your hands on your knees and looking at what's around you. Some people count down and they look at 5 things they can see, and 4 things they can hear, and 3 things they can touch, and 2 things they can feel, and 1 thing they can taste. And they'll count, those things to just ground them. But there are some mindful exercises that you can do, and these are things that you learn in therapy, okay? Yes, I go over some of these techniques with my patients, especially if they are having issues during the appointment to where they're dissociating in the appointment. Then yes, of course, or if they're having a panic attack in the appointment, yes, of course, I will go ahead and do some mindfulness activities with them, some deep breathing and bringing them back to the present and just helping them to calm down and just providing supportive therapy. But the real therapy needs to be some grounding techniques, okay? And that needs to be done over time. So you go to therapy starting once or twice weekly, and then it's once weekly, and then maybe it's bi-weekly, and then maybe it's once a month, and then maybe it's just a call or a check-in every 6 months or so. Please don't be afraid of therapy, because for a borderline personality, the only medication that is FDA, well, it's even off-label, that we could give for a borderline personality disorder is olanzapine or Zyprexa. And it does have metabolic side effects, okay? So I wouldn't give that. I would say, okay, let's go ahead and treat your symptoms of anger. Let's go ahead and treat this depression. Let's go ahead and treat suicidal thoughts by giving an antipsychotic or by giving an antidepressant, giving something for anxiety. And then go ahead and get therapy, okay? And work on your interpersonal relationships. Now, usually people with borderline personality disorder, they just have these tumultuous relationships with everyone. It's not just with a significant other. It may be with everybody, with your mom, with your core, with friends, with relatives, with people who aren't relatives, with bosses. Do you all know people like that? They're just everywhere they go. They just leave a trail of messed up relationships. Just a trail of messed up relationships. Do you know people like that? And just don't go around saying, oh, that person has borderline personality disorder. These are just traits, okay, guys? These are traits that I'm going over and patterns of behavior for people just to understand that are not adaptive. They're maladaptive, so they're not good. They're not sustainable, and you really need to get help. All right, so that's the borderline personality disorder. That's totally different from bipolar disorder, which we will go over in the next episode. I haven't forgotten about OCD, y'all. I'm going to do that a little bit later, but stay tuned. It was really, really nice getting ready with you and putting on my makeup for the day and talking specifically about borderline personality disorder. If you have 5 of those 9, please go and seek professional help, okay? All right, I will see you guys back on the next episode of Mental Health and Makeup with your host, Jasmine Young. Bye.